The thoughts, opinions, and general overall shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your host, Jason Beck, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us.
Oh, good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy Thanks for joining us, Stone. Good morning. It's Thursday, July 16th, and today is National Cherry Day, National Personal Chef Day, okay, all right, National Corn Fritters Day, National Support Public Education Day, and Guinea Pig Appreciation Day. I'm your host, Jenny Beth, the highest Republican. Jason Beck is out of office again today, so you guys got me all week. So, all right, we'll roll right into it. How's everybody doing? Thank you for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above and down below to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, X, Instagram, Facebook, Kick, and on our very own website, www.hyattnews.com. So thank you all for joining us. And we're going to jump right into one of Jason's favorite places, Vermont. And I'm going to clap for myself because what would Jason Beck do? All right. Vermont police are training to spot cannabis-impaired drivers. Vermont law enforcement agencies are expanding efforts to identify cannabis-impaired drivers as new training programs aim to address safety on the state's roads. The Vermont Police Academy received funding to support this work, according to a community announcement, as officials respond to rising crash data and evolving attitudes around cannabis use. State data shows crashes involving drivers suspected of having only cannabis in their system rose from 13 incidents with 3 fatalities in 2021 to 20 crashes and 4 fatalities in 2025. Impaired driving overall remains a major factor in highway deaths, contributing to about 51% of fatalities, according to the announcement. In 2025, the Vermont Police Academy was awarded a $20,000 grant from Responsibility.org and the Governor's Highway Safety Association to expand training for officers on recognizing cannabis impairment. The Academy has since held workshops designed to help officers better identify impairment in real-world scenarios. The first session took place in November 2025, followed by a second in June 2026. The trainings differ from traditional classroom instruction by allowing officers to observe volunteers who have consumed cannabis in a controlled environment. Participants complete 2 monitored consumption sessions and are evaluated after each. These workshops offer a unique learning opportunity that simply cannot be replicated in a classroom, said Jamie Lee Bedard, impaired driving training coordinator. Officers gain first-hand experience recognizing signs of cannabis impairment, while volunteers gain a better understanding of how cannabis affects their ability to drive safely. Organizers say the program also creates opportunities for discussion between law enforcement and the state's regulated cannabis industry, according to the announcement. During the November training, the Academy partnered with Mountain Girl Cannabis of Rutland. Business owners spoke with officers about industry trends, common misconceptions, and how cannabis is used within communities. Organizers plan to expand the program and offer similar training opportunities to law enforcement agencies statewide. All right, well, I don't know who volunteered to go get high in front of the police, but wouldn't be me. Find somebody else to do it. What do you guys think?
Yeah, no thanks.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like sort of almost like an afterthought that they mentioned that they used somebody from the community. I guess that's good, but really, honestly, if anybody was responsible for researching this, like actual levels of impairment and what have you, this should be done from a clinical end, not by the police. They have a very clear mission that is to get people in trouble for the sake of finding them and worse. This is simply a tool to help them do that rather than actually understand levels of impairment with cannabis and how that works. If you're simply trying to say, compare this on a one-to-one scale with how alcohol impairs you, right there, you're going about it the wrong way, right? Like that's not how cannabis affects people. That's not how the parts of the brain that it affects. That's not the part of the people's behavior that it affects. The idea of being inebriated while driving with something, say, outside of what cops have been trained for as their core just seems silly. So this requires a fresh perspective on it if it's going to be studied, not by people whose literal job it is to get people in trouble. They don't get to make the score sheet too. Sorry, that's not how science, and whenever science meets government, that's not how it's supposed to work.
I do think it's interesting that they're actually having people get high and then just observing the people as opposed to, one of those weird little simulators. But I also think it's weird that Vermont, the state that Super Troopers is from, can't figure out how the cops look at somebody until they're high. Have you seen the opening scene of the movie?
Well said, both of you.
All right. Well,
Super Troopers 3 is coming out soon. That's something to be excited about, right?
There we go.
Sick.
But good name drop right there.
They filmed it doing these trials. Yeah, same guys, just super high in the back. All right, well, that's our first story. Thanks, Vermont. Just stick to what you're doing, maple syrup or whatever, All right, so Massachusetts, another ridiculous state. Massachusetts regulators approve cannabis delivery bans for 13 municipalities under new state law because Massachusetts snowstorms are exactly when I want to have to run to the dispensary. The Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission has approved temporary bans on adult use marijuana delivery in 13 municipalities following the enactment of a law that authorized delivery statewide. The law signed by Governor Maura Healey on April 19th allows cannabis delivery in every municipality unless a city or town receives a waiver from the commission. Municipalities that already have marijuana retailers are not eligible to request a waiver. As of July 15th, the commission had certified delivery waivers for 13 communities according to its municipal zoning tracker. 2 of those municipalities opted to prohibit delivery for 1 year, while the remaining waivers may last up to 2 years. Delivery bans can be renewed in additional 2-year increments, but require commission approval. The agency has created a standardized waiver form and is publishing each active ban and its expiration date through the zoning tracker. The restrictions apply only to adult use marijuana delivery. Medical marijuana establishments are allowed to deliver to registered patients in all 351 Massachusetts cities and towns. Delivery businesses have proven to operate safely and to the letter of the law, and so the commission encourages municipalities to give serious thought before opting to prohibit adult use delivery, Commission Chair Chris Hardig said. Massachusetts offers 3 delivery license models: couriers that deliver products from licensed marijuana establishments, operators that can purchase and warehouse products for delivery, and delivery endorsements for eligible micro businesses. Delivery licenses are reserved for businesses majority owned by participants in the state's social equity program or certified economic empowerment priority applicants. That means your wife applied for you, so she was a female owner. The exclusivity period for those applicants was recently extended through April 2029. The commission has authorized 13 marijuana couriers, 20 delivery operators, and 2 micro businesses with delivery endorsements to begin operating. 8 couriers and 17 delivery operators are currently serving customers and patients, employing a combined 324 registered agents. Cannabis delivery businesses have facilitated or directly generated nearly $74 million in gross sales since the state's first delivery operation opened in June of 2021. All right, so yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking cold states delivery makes absolute sense. I don't want to go outside Massachusetts. I don't want to go outside Huntington Beach when it's cold. So I'll throw it back to you guys, but it seems a little silly, and yeah.
It seems a little silly. I mean, these operators have already proven they can deliver cannabis safely and responsibly. I don't understand why they're not given an opportunity to compete. Or did I? Yeah.
Yeah, how you hand it to a person after all the miles of red tape you've gone through as an operator seems to be a very slight detail. I strongly support that. It's crazy too. Like when something like DoorDash or whatever the equivalent of a delivery service as it exists nowadays, whenever they decided to start doing things like pushing alcohol, did it even look slightly like this? I mean, it sucks, but all we're doing is drawing a big red circle around why prohibition doesn't make sense and why it's so unfair. What are you saying? That somebody who smokes cannabis ought to be put under more dangerous conditions than someone who drinks alcohol? And how exactly did you reach that conclusion, right? So yeah, I mean, anything that's going to push the folds together to where things aren't run on exception, to where stuff is just unpractical. I mean, again, it just draws a big red circle around how that all looks, yay prohibition, right?
I guess. I mean, we were talking about the state that's trying to just completely unwind their marijuana program as well. So, yeah, let's all keep that.
Yeah, yay prohibition. And, for what? We know that people aren't going to consume less cannabis if they unwind it. So who are they trying to help? Who's who is supposed to be the winner in this case? Is it just a feel-good, fundy kind of motion to try to ban it? Or is there an actual practical business or political or, any kind of reason? Who knows?
Not me. Do you know Stone Slade? You're on mute,
bro.
I'm sorry, I got so many tabs away from my from Discord. I couldn't unmute fast enough. No, I don't know.
Well,
thank you for that contribution.
On that note, we're going to roll into our first commercial and we'll be right back.
I just ordered the summertime strawberry salad when added steak on top here at Anna's. Make sure you do the same thing too next time you're in downtown Long Beach. Come on down and check out Anna's joint on the 400 block of Pine Street. They have amazing selection of beers, foods, and when you come down here to Anna's, you can even challenge me to a game of shuffleboard if you want to lose. Did you get that? So, next time you're in downtown Long Beach on Pine Avenue, make sure you stop by Anna's Joint on the 400 block. Not only do they have Anna's Joint, this restaurant and bar, but they also have the amazing deli next door, and then next door to that they have a very exotic flower shop. You may want to stop by and say hi.
There we are. And we're back, you guys, and rolling down to the ATX, Jason's favorite acronym. When he's not hitting the high road, he's smoking the Delta 8 down in the great Lone Star State, Mr. Stone Slade.
I can escape Jason, but I can't escape his bullshit lines. Thanks, Jenny Beth.
I made that up.
Right.
I just improv that whole thing. You freaking ingrate.
Yeah. Anyway, it's summertime, and here's something to keep in mind if your summer travels involve cannabis. Just because it's legal where you bought it doesn't mean it's legal where you're going. And in some parts of the world, making that mistake could mean a whole lot more than simply having your weed confiscated at the airport. As cannabis laws continue to change around the world, the rules for travelers are becoming an absolute patchwork. You can leave the cannabis market, hop on a plane, and within a few hours land somewhere that treats the same product sitting in your suitcase like a serious narcotic. And that includes things a lot of customers may not even think twice about anymore. Vape, edibles, a bottle of CBD oil, even legally prescribed medical cannabis. I travel a lot, and this is one of those situations where you absolutely cannot assume the rules at home follow you onto the airplane. Singapore is probably the most extreme example now. The country maintains a zero tolerance cannabis laws, with possession carrying serious prison time, like 10 years, and trafficking larger amounts potentially carrying the death penalty. Singapore also makes it illegal for its own citizens and permanent residents to consume controlled drugs outside of the country. So technically, a Singapore citizen can legally consume cannabis while visiting a legal market and still face consequences when they return home. Thailand's another perfect example of how quickly things can change. We've talked about it many times on the show. When Thailand removed cannabis from its narcotics list in 2022, cannabis shops seemed to pop up everywhere. The country quickly developed a reputation as cannabis tourism destination, but the government has since tightened those rules significantly. As of June 2025, cannabis flower is classified as a controlled substance, and tourists are prohibited from buying, carrying, or using it without a valid prescription issued in Thailand. Then there's Japan, which continues to warn foreign travelers about its strict drug laws and maintains specific guidance for people entering the country with controlled medications and substances. But honestly, you don't have to leave the United States for the rules to become confusing. The TSA currently lists medical marijuana as allowed in both carry-on and checked luggage, but the details are in the fine print. TSA officers say that they're focused on security threats and aren't actively searching for illegal drugs, but cannabis containing more than the good old 0.3% Delta-9 THC remains federally illegal unless it falls under a specific federal exception. And if TSA discovers it's something that appears to violate the law, they can still refer that to law enforcement. So yes, that little green, yes, on the TSA website is definitely not a free pass to fly around the country with your medical stash, and international travel is an entirely different game. This is one of those strange consequences of cannabis reform happening country by country and state by state instead of through a kind of coordinated policy. We've normalized cannabis in a lot of places. The law has not normalized with it. You walk through a beautiful licensed dispensary in California, Canada, or Germany, buy a professionally packaged product, pay taxes on it, and receive a receipt. Everything about that experience tells you what you're buying is a normal consumer product. But then you put that same product in your suitcase and travel across the wrong border, and suddenly you may be treated like you're smuggling drugs. So until cannabis laws catch up and cannabis culture, with cannabis culture, my advice is pretty simple. Learn how to read. When you travel, know the laws of where you're going. And when you travel internationally, unless you have confirmed permission directly from that country, leave the cannabis at home. I'm Stone Slade with the High at 9 News.
Well, big dummies.
Big dummies.
Big dummies. Yeah, I don't think I'd ever fly to any Asian country with cannabis because they really don't like play around over there like that. So, yeah, I've accidentally flown through a large portion of the EU with different various. It was an accident. I didn't know it was there either, and thank God neither did they.
Thank God. Yeah, that's the second part.
Yeah, I hear traveling using like concentrates, stuff like rosin that's really hard to identify, especially if you're not familiar with those products, and a Puffco. Especially if you were to take the Puffco apart into individual pieces and like say put the electronic pieces into your camera bag, I hear is a really good way to sort of split up that whole experience so people wouldn't be able to notice that you're carrying your personals with you when you travel abroad, I hear. And so I just wanted to pass on to you what I had heard rumor be as well. So yeah, that's my experience with traveling, overseas and wanting to have your cake and eat it too. So that much said, all of us, correspondents, Jenny, Beth, we're all, roundabout within the same, neighborhood of, which generation we're from and stuff. I can say that for people like us, I'm pretty confident that traveling with it has been kind of a part of just your traveling life. Articles like this are always fun. Thank you, Stone. It kind of makes me think like, that's, all of the times that doesn't say in the last week that I went places with it that I wasn't supposed to, that I'm just used to having a hidden pocket in my clothes now or something like that. Or I don't know, other helpful stuff like the fact that a standard vape doesn't actually set off, metal detectors. Really good stuff to know in general, right? So, travel away, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, and I just want to correct the narrative really quick and say I'm much younger than any of the other correspondents on this show. Not just today, but every day. Yeah, just so we're clear. But yeah, no, I had no problem with my Puffco going through Europe, going through the UK. They just wanted to swab it and make sure it wasn't something that was going to blow up.
Right.
Got there. Yeah, good story for you, Stone, since you hit the high road and that's your thing. All right. Yeah, I guess so, right? All right, stop whatever you're doing. I know it's early, but there's way more of you than there are likes, so please hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed to the show so you get our notifications. And Jason Beck is a happy little fella. Go ahead and do that. Smash that like button. We're going to roll into our next commercial, and we will be right back.
I'm Cole Preston, and today I'm at Blue Island Beer Company for the premiere of my mini documentary on legalization policy in Illinois. I've been following cannabis policy since colorful Colorado legalized it all the way back in the day, and when my home state of Illinois decided to legalize it, I just became enamored. I wondered, what would it actually look like? If you'd like to see how Illinois fell short in achieving meaningful reform in their cannabis policy, you can watch my mini-doc now at colememo.com/mini-doc.
Oh my God.
Oh,
That could have gone.
yeah,
wrong.
yeah.
And
It would have gone really wrong, I just trust it. All right.
it would not have aged well.
It would, no, and it would have aged quickly, very quickly.
Show's on the air thanks to Jenny.
All right, coming up next, we have Mr. Nte Winokur, and not to be confused with Teaching Buds, he is Teaching Bud on YouTube, and very large in the lab space, founder and pioneer. And Nate's coming up. What do you have for us?
I have a fun article today. Usually I stick to good news, but it's one of those articles that anytime it comes up, I like to bring some attention to it because, man, California was experimental at best and, failed and unfair at worst. And when it comes to the cannabis industry, the title of today's article kind of says it all. California is struggling to control its booming illegal cannabis market. So there are a lot of different ways to look at this because part of this booming illegal market are the actual legal operators, because it's very much been one of our dreams, collectively in the state, to be able to participate in a legitimate market. But getting taxed to hell and unfair business practices and a runaway government and their failure to uphold one of the very first things that they said they would do, which is use the money that they generated from the cannabis market to fight illegal cannabis. None of that really happened. And so I just like to bring some attention to these kind of things because it really is a massive failure, politically, failure of the government to service a whole, what should be burgeoning industry, and instead has just been heartbreak after heartbreak for us here in California. So let's look into a couple of details. High taxes, complex regulations, and unlicensed sellers continue to undermine California's legal marijuana industry. California was expected to become the gold standard for legal cannabis. As the first state to legalize medical marijuana in 1996 and the largest legal recreational market in the U.S. after voters approved adult use cannabis in 2016, many believed the illicit marijuana market would gradually disappear. But 10 years later, California is struggling to control its booming illegal cannabis market. With aid from some in the industry, it is home to one of the country's largest illegal cannabis markets. Every industry has infrastructure, right? There's the idea for supporting elements of industry. Lab testing, what I do, is a great example. Lab testing for cannabis doesn't really exist without a cannabis industry, right? So consider this, that you have all of this infrastructural benefit, things like new versions of packaging, better ways of moving product around, better types of insulation that exists to keep product fresh, testing labs. You have all of these things that service the legal industry and now also service the illegal industry. Good, strong infrastructure makes an industry stronger than ever. And in this case, the illegal industry is in part doing so well because it now has the infrastructure borrowed from the legal industry. Kind of crazy, but Despite billions of dollars in legal cannabis sales, experts estimate a significant share of the cannabis sold in California still comes from unlicensed growers, manufacturers, distributors, and retailers. The result is an uneven playing field, hurting licensed businesses, reduces taxes online, and creates ongoing public safety and environmental concerns. One of the biggest challenges facing California's legal cannabis industry is taxation. Licensed businesses must pay cultivation costs, testing fees, licensing expenses, local permits, security requirements, employee wages, and multiple layers of taxes. Those costs are ultimately passed on to consumers, making legal cannabis significantly more expensive than products sold through the illicit market. For many consumers, especially occasional users or those on tight budgets, the price difference is enough to keep buying from unlicensed sources. Regulation also plays a major role. California's legal cannabis businesses must comply with strict testing standards designed to ensure products are free from dangerous pesticides, heavy metals, mold, and contaminants. While these rules may improve consumer safety, they also increase operating costs and slow product movement. Illegal operators face none of these requirements. The state has increased enforcement efforts, conducting raids on illegal cultivation sites and shutting down unauthorized dispensaries. Authorities have also targeted illegal grows on public lands, damaging wildlife habitats, divert water resources during drought conditions, and use banned pesticides threatening nearby ecosystems. Breaking from the article for just a second. So I mentioned stuff like, hey, we have this shared infrastructure, yet here this article is not completely incorrectly saying companies get to make up their own rules. And that's kind of a major player right here. In terms of transportation exists for people all over the state. If the particular cost of transportation of a particular thing or at a particular time is too expensive, you'll throw it into the trunk of a homie's car instead, where that's not something that licensed industry or licensed business really can do. Also licensed business, I deal with this all the time. Let's say you are making a batch of vapes, and this one batch you're going to divide into 10 different flavors. The cost of testing is about $400. Question and answer. Should you pay $400 for this one batch, or should you pay $4,000 because you're being forced to essentially test every single flavor as if it was an individual batch? That's a major component right there, because you're paying 10 times more as a licensed business without having any choice in the matter. You absolutely are still testing when you're that unlicensed business. You want to make sure you're not just releasing complete crap all the time. And I'm just using broad strokes and generalizations here. But you want to make sure oftentimes that you're not selling complete crap. But are you going to test the same batch 10 times over to stay in compliance with some laws that aren't really specifically designed for a product like yours in the first place? Of course you're not. Also, edible companies, they'll test once or twice on R&D and make sure that they have the recipe dialed in. But do they test literally every part of every batch in order to make sure that everything's on the line perfect? Of course not. As a result, stuff like illicit products have the ability to be better and better produced and better quality than ever, but not beholden to the same really tight 10 times blown out types of costs that you would be beholden to as a licensed company. Moving along. The state has increased enforcement efforts, conducting raids on illegal cultivation sites and shutting down unauthorized dispensaries. Authorities have also targeted illegal grows on public lands, damaging wildlife habitats, diverting water resources, drought conditions, and banned pesticides. Sorry, I think I did that already. Yet enforcement remains difficult. California's vast geography and long history of cannabis cultivation makes it challenging to eliminate illicit operations entirely. Many illegal businesses simply relocate or reopen under different names after being shut down. Licensed cannabis operators say the imbalance has become one of the industry's biggest threats. Many small businesses who invested heavily to comply with state regulations have struggled financially or closed altogether, unable to compete with sellers who avoid taxes and regulatory costs. The illicit market also creates uncertainty for consumers. While many illegal products may appear identical to those sold illegally, they generally do not undergo the same laboratory testing required for licensed cannabis. Without independent verification, consumers have less assurance about potency, contaminants, or product consistency. Industry leaders continue to urge lawmakers to simplify regulations, reduce taxes, and create policies encouraging consumers to purchase from licensed retailers. Some economists argue making legal cannabis more affordable could do more to weaken the illicit market than making it illegal altogether. So that's just a little snippet of the idea. And obviously, you're going to hear a lot more emotionally charged stuff from yours truly rather than hardcore information in this insanely complex situation in the article. Guys, I know you've all had experience with what it looks like to be a off the market company, to be an on the market company, to be off the market, yet trying to do things the right way. As I understand, things work pretty well in Austin. It's interesting, to say the least, of how this stuff all sort of dances together. And not to mention that, you know, the dirty secret is a lot of the time people who are conducting this illicit business are the actual state operators who, in their legal business alone, wouldn't be able to make this actually happen. They wouldn't actually be able to cut things up properly. But with the ability to inject illegal business with their legal business, they can actually cobble together a career. It's crazy. It's systemically damaged. It is obviously not the intention of legalization, but here we are. So that's what I think about this mess. Back to you guys.
It's crazy, man. You know, this really is how you can just keep shooting yourself in the foot. Like, how dumb can you be to not see that your overregulation and enforcement has caused this problem? You tax and regulate the guy doing it right so much that he can't compete with the illicit market. Like, it makes no sense to me, and they just keep fucking doing it. Excuse me, they keep freaking doing it.
Yeah, no, it's the notion is it's crazy. You would think that being aware of this causality, you would instantly do something about it, because here you are with the ability to control all of this stuff. A term that we use in the industry to everybody, and everybody will have their own experience with this, is dummy distros. That's a distribution company that's essentially failing. They are in DGAF status, and they don't really care what's going to happen to their business. They'll let anything, generally speaking, in this kind of business, the dummy distro, they'll let anything pass through there and send it to anywhere else and just falsify all of the information. And these places are nexus points to be able to transport illegal cannabis out of the industry. The state knows this. The state sees this happening. The state's been hit with lawsuits about this. It happens, and these transactions happen literally by the hundreds every day. So the state allows this. Why? They literally are allowing this to happen in their track and trace system. And it so seems, as we observe this, that they're just simply, unless they need to look at it, often for the times of actually punishing somebody who's a licensed company, they usually completely neglect to look at their track and trace system.
No, they've been doing no knocks on burners, and they've been kicking doors in, and before they come into your facility. So if you are operating a burner, or someone you know love is operating a burner, you might want to give them this information. Keep your metrics straight. Make sure you have on hand what you're supposed to have on hand, because before they come in your gate, they are going to print out what is live in your metric. If you say nobody's on site, you better not have any transfers coming into your facility that day. I'm just saying, just in case.
I mean, please go on, Jenny Beth. I mean, this is something I only have a very small bit of perspective of in terms of these dummy distros right here. I would honestly, if we have a couple of minutes, love to hear examples or stories that you know of that will help make this a little bit more real and drive it home, because it's such a silly thing that shouldn't exist, yet we all know it does. Do you have anything more? Because this is stuff, honestly, I want to drink up.
It kind of burns my ass, because I feel like I'm fighting for the industry, and whatever the industry's got to do to survive, I ain't no snitch.
Yeah, that's the truth of it. Honestly, it's a weird thing, because, my friends who run legal industry are the same people as my friends who run illegal industry. And so there's no point in it other than to say that I talk to these guys, and when you get them to truth-telling mode, everybody wishes that things just eased up. In my experience, people just wish things eased up so that they could get back to doing things in a licensed way and actually make money. They want to retire someday. They want a business that actually can show profits and show money being made. And if you have to throw all of your stuff into some invisible ledger, then it's not going to help you long term. And that wasn't what we were all about when we got started. I'm not sure if your experience is the same, but a lot of my friends say, man, I wish I didn't have to do this. Man, I wish I was just profitable doing the right thing. And to me, that's the major part of the issue that strikes me. It's hard for me to see past that.
I don't even feel like, even when I was growing in houses I wasn't supposed to be growing in states where you still can't grow, I never felt like I was doing the wrong thing. I don't believe that morality and legality always line up, and I think that cannabis is one of those instances where that's very true. And what I'm hearing from a lot of my clients, a lot of my friends is shit, I wish I didn't have to pay these license fees. I just go back to trapping, because what's the point? I'm making zero money and I'm paying all these fees, all these taxes, and I got the government up my butt whenever they feel like showing up. So, a deschedule, meaningful regulations, opening the market, that would be the way to take all these things down, because we're never going to, or whoever's trapping is never going to stop trapping, we as an industry. So it is what it is, and it ain't what it ain't. So any final thoughts, guys? All right, sick. Well, with that, trap, we're going to roll right into our last commercial. We'll be right back. And we are back. All right, it's time for some me and some more me. I am your host, the highest Republican, Beth Dills. Why'd my canned applause work? Son of a biscuit. There it is. Not doing it till they clap for me. There it is. All right. Yeah. This is really awkward, and this is a weird story, and this is frustrating because I ran a facility in this city for a long time. But anyway, Colorado Springs marijuana tax funds proposed for South Nevada security upgrades. Since recreational marijuana became legal in Colorado Springs last year, finally, shout out to them, the city has collected $1.8 million from a special retail marijuana sales tax dedicated to the public safety and mental health programs. Now the Colorado Springs Urban Renewal Authority is asking City Council to direct $450,000 of that money towards security improvements in South Nevada corridor. Paris Creep, a restaurant at South Dahone Street and East Mill Street, sits in what a city report calls an offense hotspot. Oh, they're talking about, see, this is stupid. South Nevada is a street. So this may make it look stupid, but all right, now I look dumb. Sit in what a report calls an offense hotspot, an area identified through city survey tracking where the most calls for service originate on South Nevada and the surrounding area. Slade Housafi and his parents own Paris Crepe. They sound Parisian. He said crime near his business is an occasional concern. There have been some issues in the past. There are some things that happened around here recently. Oh, excellent quote, said Housafi. Housafi said the neighborhood's safety can vary dramatically depend on location. He said he sees less homeless where his business is located versus on South Nevada Avenue. This area can drastically change, like where you are now and how safe it is, because just down the street, it's more prominent for homeless people, and it doesn't feel like as safe as an area here, said Housafi. The Urban Renewal Authority's proposal targets public safety hotspots, including the following areas: Dorchester Park, the I-25 and South Tejon Street, South Nevada Avenue complex, and the South Nevada Avenue corridor. The plan includes unarmed security guards and drones to survey the area. The proposal would cost more than the $458,000 the Urban Renewal Authority is asking for. According to the proposal, Fidelis Security would provide 6 unarmed guards a week. The guards would work 3 shifts that would overlap, and the estimated price is nearly $670,000 yearly. Drones would cost an estimated $87,600 annually. For Hasafi, approval of proposal could mean more customers and potentially draw new business to fill vacant buildings nearby. I do hope that increased security will make people more comfortable and allow them to feel like they can come down here, said Hasafi. The proposal is awaiting approval from Colorado Springs City Council. In the work session on Monday, Jariah Walker, Executive Director, Colorado Springs Urban Renewal Authority, said the main goal of this investment is to develop the South Nevada Avenue corridor and bring more businesses in. It's a goal that Hasafi hopes for as well. He said that ultimately it comes down to customers feeling safe around his business and the other businesses in the area. If increased security will make the customers of Paris Crepe feel more comfortable and make them feel safer, then it's something I'm rooting for, said Hasafi. All right. So first things first, I lived in Colorado Springs. If you're scared in Colorado Springs, I don't know where you should move, but I don't know where you should move, but it's a pretty safe town. Also, a lot of those homeless in Colorado Springs are veterans. So maybe we should reinvest some of that money into funding some homeless veterans facilities. Ooh, or maybe Mr. Crepe House, you could hire some homeless veterans and then they wouldn't be on the street making you nervous. But I'll throw it back to you guys. Everybody loves crepes. We can agree on that. Really thin pancakes.
Is hard. What are you talking about? Shout out to Jerry out in Colorado Springs. Oh man, that's funny. But hey, that's a hell of a lot good thing to be spending that money on than putting people in jail for cannabis.
That's fair.
They're off to a good start.
Yeah, no, it sounds like honestly, by making it more legal, that's a great step. They're actually making the city safer, right? By allowing even fewer laws to be broken there. So that sounds awesome. Jenny, Beth, I'm not familiar with the socio-political, status of Colorado Springs, but based on what you said, it sounds like a no-brainer.
Well, Focus on the Family was happy to put their main operations there. So if, Focus on the Family and the Air Force and everybody are out there, it's not really not that dangerous. More dangerous to get in trouble in Colorado Springs than it is to find trouble in Colorado Springs. But hey, that's just my thought.
Hey, reducing the number of ways somebody can get in trouble sounds like a really positive direction. It sounds like we're, sucking some of the venom out of this country when I hear that kind of stuff. So more stories like this, please.
Well, no, I disagree because they're trying to put drones up and put unarmed security out in the downtown area in Colorado Springs so they can actually pop more people so that this guy's crepe business feels safe. Maybe that.
So I'm sorry to interrupt. So is it recreational already and this is part of it? Or I took it to mean that they were two different things, but I may have misunderstood.
They want to use the money from recreational taxes to buy drones and security guards for downtown Colorado Springs. That part is BS. So I hear you there. Sorry, I overlooked that. Yeah, super BS when it comes to that. I'd like to think that, especially in safe cities, fewer drones to keep this fascistic peace, the better, Yeah. Yep. Nope, I agree. I wish I could find, if I had time and I had a way to do it, I would pull up a picture of this guy's crepe shop because I bet it's really cute. Downtown Colorado Springs is pretty chill. It's not like an area where I've ever felt scared, and I was in my 20s living there by myself. So, but hey, to each their own. Everybody loves a good crepe. What do you think, Stone? Any last thoughts on that one?
No last thoughts. I just think you guys should have gone wrecked so many years ago.
So many years ago. We were trying to so many years ago, and it got shot down time after time after time, and finally this last ditch effort worked. So shout out to them
back
for
then,
that.
this guy's crepe store would already be safe. It'd be
Jesus crepe. All right. Anyway, let's bring it back to California because attorneys in a California murder case argue intent. Cannabis-induced psychosis as trial nears end. Oh boy. Attorneys in a high-profile California murder case against a man accused of fatally stabbing 2 people and injuring a third verbally brawled this week over legal objections as the case nears jury deliberations. This is the second time Yolo County prosecutors have taken Carlos Reals Dominguez, 23, to trial. Jurors last year acquitted the former UC Davis student of first-degree murder in the spring of 2023 slayings of David Bro, 50, and Kareem Abu Najim, 20. However, they reached no verdict on charges of second-degree murder, involuntary manslaughter, and attempted murder of Kimberly Gilroy. Dominguez has pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. That sounds like a big fat excuse. The acquittal set the stage for a second trial featuring Dominguez's former college colleagues, girlfriend, and a handful of psychiatric experts testifying over several weeks. Deputy Public Defender Dan Hutchinson has argued Dominguez suffered from schizophrenia at the time and saw supernatural shapeshifters and shadow people that he attacked. Okay. Prosecutors counted that Dominguez had experienced a cannabis-induced psychosis and use of the drug sparked his dormant mental illness, but that he could still reason at the time. Closing arguments will be heard on Tuesday, Wednesday, and are set to continue Thursday morning, and I will definitely be back with a story if we have one tomorrow for you guys, because I think this is a load of bullshit. Deputy District Attorney Alex Kean, in his closing argument, pointed to Dominguez's cannabis use as evidence showing he had goal-directed behavior and organized thought. Kean said Dominguez made choices that led him to the stabbings, including rushing a fraternity, that prioritized drugs over academics. I would say that the first bad choice he made, Kean added. He needed guidance, but he didn't get it. They had high night. Hutchinson challenged that characterization, calling it a violation of the California Racial Justice Act. The fraternity is predominantly Filipino, though it accepts other nationalities. Yolo County Superior Judge Sam McAdam agreed with Hutchinson, saying cannabis had a narrow purpose in the case. Kean, in turn, said Hutchinson had 3 times during the trial accused his side of prosecutorial misconduct, at least once in front of jurors. McAdam instructed jurors to disregard Kean's statement about the fraternity, telling the prosecutor outside the jury's hearing that he'd need to file a motion about the misconduct claims. Continuing his closing argument, Kean walked jurors through the details of the stabbings. He pointed to the dozens of stab wounds the victim suffered. He said that after Bro's death, Dominguez returned home and made music on his computer. But he makes no recollection of the actual stabs, Kean said, adding later, he didn't choose to run away, he chose to attack. Inability to remember doesn't mean lack of intent. Kean added that Dominguez opted to attack Najim, who was on a bicycle, but fled when a nearby resident with a flashlight approached to help the victim in Davis Park. Dominguez's organized thoughts, again, were present when officers arrested him in early May 2023, Kean said. Jurors saw camera footage of that arrest, and the prosecutor pointed to what he called Dominguez's regular speech with officers. It's only when later confronted with the stabbings that Dominguez falls silent, the attorney said. Pivoting to cannabis use. The prosecutor said doctors testified about Dominguez's marijuana use every day in the weeks before the slaying. Kean compared schizophrenia to asthma. Someone who can have asthma but feel no symptoms unless they're near dust. Dominguez used cannabis, which essentially inflamed his mental illness. Kean argued. However, the drug didn't remove his ability to make decisions, the attorney added. Getting his chance to stand before the jury, Hutchinson slammed the prosecution and investigators in the case, calling their efforts amateur hour. He expressed surprise that Kean only mentioned schizophrenia near the end of his argument. That happened because prosecutors wanted the jury to believe Dominguez was healthy at the time of the slayings. He added, Carlos Reals Dominguez has schizophrenia, Hutchinson said. This is not a closed question. The mental illness was key to understanding Dominguez's intent, a critical element to secure a conviction. Someone must intend to kill a human, not a shadow shapeshifter, to be convicted of murder, Hutchinson said. The public defender also cautiously dismissed the prosecution's arguments about his client's cannabis-induced psychosis. According to Hutchinson, that theory came from prosecutors, not doctors. In fact, it was only last autumn that a psychiatrist and 4 prosecutors discovered the missing piece, that Dominguez's cannabis use spurred his psychosis, Hutchinson said. At the time of the charged offenses, he actually had reefer madness, he added, referring to the 1930s anti-marijuana movie. This is the argument they gave you in this case. 3 medical experts determined Dominguez suffered from psychosis at the time of the slayings. Hutchinson said he experienced delusions and hallucinations at the time. Prosecutors kept emphasizing the number of stab wounds the victim suffered because of their brutal nature, the defense attorney said. But those wounds and details like Dominguez's ability to sometimes speak rationally or buckle a seatbelt don't mean prosecutors proved the case beyond a reasonable doubt, Hutchinson said. This is a case for people who will follow the law when it's difficult, Hutchinson told jurors. And what does the prosecution have? The number of stab wounds. All right, so one, if you have schizophrenia, weed is probably not for you, big dog. Also, if you are that psychotic, I doubt that you're going to college. I doubt that you're pledging a fraternity. I don't know why it being a Filipino fraternity has anything to do with the price of tea in California, because it does not. I think the public defender is grasping at straws here. And honestly, I don't really want a guy who's capable of viciously stabbing people, whether he thinks they're shapeshifters or not, running around outside on the streets. This is why we need to bring back insane asylums. But I'll throw it back to you guys.
Yeah. Mental illness, impairment, and criminal intent are completely separate questions. Like, using cannabis as the convenient scapegoat for this is just same old reefer madness bullshit, man.
Mm-hmm.
Nope. Yep. Grasping for straws. And that's with only knowing this within the context of just an article, let alone a whole case that could be studied, but clearly grasping for straws.
Yeah, that's, well, at least we all agree it's bullshit. Bullshit.
So yeah, I wonder, whose bright idea this was. And, we, like you said, somebody who suffers from psychosis, doing something that exacerbates that. I mean, sure, but you could say the same for almost any drug that comes to immediately to mind. If you're suffering from psychosis, meth wouldn't have been much better in that scenario, right?
No, he would have just had more energy.
So this doesn't. Yeah, I mean that. This is. I guess grasping for straws. I can't even capitalize on my previous thought. That's simply what it is. It's stupid. It's basic. Thank you for bringing us to our attention, because obviously this kind of stuff that's stupid and basic, you want to believe we're past this, but here we are.
Yeah, well, yeah. Also, it sounds like it's a public defender, so whatever. But just stop blaming cannabis for people's crazy shit. Like, let's stop doing that. Hang that up. And whether or not you agree with the guy being crazy, he killed 2.5 people. So yeah, let's hopefully get justice for those families, and that's very unfortunate. I think it's very interesting that suddenly he wasn't insane when the person with the flashlight showed up. But okay. Makes sense to me. But all right, on that note, thank you for getting high with us at 9 every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time and high noon on the East Coast. Big shout out to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Huge thank you to Catalyst for helping keep the lights on. Thank you, correspondents, for being absolutely amazing. And thank you for Cannabis Sativa L for giving us a reason to do this every morning. Thank you, Cloud Media Partners, Elias and Gabriel, somewhere in the metaverse. Thank you all for tuning in and getting high with 9 with us. I'm your host, Jenny Beth, and we are America's #1 daily cannabis news show.